Welcome to the Signal Halifax. We're here on campus at the University of King's College.
King's is located in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. We're your hosts. I'm Ben Litvak.
And I'm Avery Stewart. Coming up, the impacts of the pandemic on animal shelters.
The SPCA had to close its doors to the public for the first 6 weeks of the pandemic.
Yes, Monty. You want everyone to pet you.
Cute kittens coming up in the show. But first, the Loaded Ladle is back on the Dalhousie campus this term. It's a volunteer-run initiative to address food security in the community. Acrid Michael reports.
At Dalhousie University, there is such a thing as a free lunch, and you can get it 4 days a week. At the Loaded Ladle, volunteers cook sustainable, locally sourced food.
But we try to make food that we would make for ourselves at home, that feed us, that is not just like the cheapest, the sweetest option possible, which is what I ate before I came here.
Volunteer coordinator Okusu Gurlai works full-time at the Ladle. She started more than 5 years ago. Being a former international student, volunteering at the Ladle was especially meaningful for Gurlai.
Back home, in Turkey, there was a lot of community around food, which I lost when I came here, which a lot of university students also do, just because living alone and university stress and not being able to afford good food. So being able to do that here was great. So I became a regular volunteer.
Board member Francesca Civiliotti explains how they choose what kind of food to serve.
Food insecurity is a huge problem in a lot of different places, and Halifax is no exception to that. That's something that the Loaded Ladle is trying to address by making food accessible and affordable, but not just any food, food that's healthy, that is locally sourced, so kind of sustainable as well, that is ethically sourced as well.
The food is a big hit among students and the local community. It's common to see a long line stretching all the way to the entrance of the building.
I really like that it is a wonderful and accessible option for students, especially if you are just kind of on campus and you're looking for a quick bite to eat. It's a really wonderful option.
I'm a vegetarian, so I love that all the food is vegetarian as well. I don't have to worry about it having meat or anything else in it. And they always include dessert as well, which is so nice. It's usually really, really good.
The Ladle is always accepting new volunteers to help cook in the kitchen.
There's always new people that we're meeting during the servings, friends that are coming along, new and old to work with. There's no substitute for a strong sense of community.
So we try to ask community members as much as possible, like meal ideas and what they would like to see at the Ladle, so that, it's not just what we give you.
Every week, the Ladle holds servings Tuesdays to Fridays at Dalhousie's Student Union building. For The Signal, this is Akrit Michael, reporting from Ukchibuktuk, also known as Halifax.
One of Dalhousie's basketball teams stands out. The players are all Chinese students. They have a point to prove on and off the court. Jian Fu Lan is on the team, and he brings us this report.
The name of the team is Qinghua, which means the best in Mandarin. The first time in the Dalhousie Intramurals League, a team consists of only Chinese students. Yanfeng Song, a student in Dalhousie, is the captain.
我打了，我从初中就算是半职业于篮球吧，就一直是校队的，因为一直都想走体育专业，所以从初中就打到现在吧。
Song is a strong player for both offense and defense. He's also the heart of the team.
还在下面都挺照顾队员的，然后在场上大家都互相鼓励。
In early October, Team Qinghua took on Team Flimby Hits. For Song, the goal is about more than winning.
因为我一直都知道戴奥有这个比赛，但是这个比赛在戴奥的球赛队里面找不到一个中国人的队。我希望有一个队的名字是中国人的名字。其次也是为了改变一些加拿大人对中国学生的认识，让他们知道我们也在体育竞技上有不错的成绩。
It was an intense game. Players frequently made free throws. Both teams play hard. Flimby Hill's point guard says everyone should be considered equal in daily life as well as on the basketball court.
Me personally, I think the stereotype is bullshit, but everyone is going to do different things. Everyone likes what they like. Some people like sports. Some people like academics regardless of whatever. So.
With a 3-point ball scored by the small forward, Tsinghua was leading by 1 point. There was only 20 seconds left of the game. Flimby had scored and finished the game. Tsinghua lost by 1 point.
I thought you guys were going to absolutely destroy us. Most of your players are way better than most of the players on my team. If we didn't have a 6'8" guy, then, it was just easy money.
成绩呢，当然拿第一能最好，但是如果就算拿不到很好的成绩也没有关系，这毕竟是第一次全男生的比赛嘛，因为下个学期还有机会再接再厉吧。
Jian Fulan, The Signal, Halifax.
For a transgender university student in Halifax, creating art saves them from chronic pain. Abel Rangel reports.
Selena Wamsley created this sanctuary, a space to make art in their private home. They are a non-binary transgender person who suffers from chronic pain.
I think I was so overwhelmed when that was happening. Like, I was in so much pain. I did have nights where I didn't think I was going to live. Okay. Because it was so absurd how big the pain was, but no one could figure out why.
How many of these boxes do you have?
These are the materials Wamsley makes art with.
And then there's a few there, so maybe 7 or 8.
Wamsley started making art when they were very young, in part to navigate their chronic pain, a pain made worse when they experienced attacks on their gender identity.
If you're living in survival mode all the time and constant adrenaline, it's really damaging for the nervous system.
Yeah.
This is where their art kicks in.
And I had all this built up energy from the complexity of the pain I was experiencing. I needed to put it somewhere. And I had cut up magazines as a teenager, and it was just, I didn't know how to draw yet, so I just went to that.
Art helps Wamsley see pain in a different light.
We don't know.
The way that I work in my practice is based in collage. So I take bits and pieces from reality and take them apart and then rebuild them to form new spaces and bodies that, in the future.
Desire and disgust.
Yeah.
Is one of the characters desire and the other one disgust?
I think they're all blended together in bits of each other.
Oh, okay.
But I've learned to work with pain as a teacher in new ways.
Those new ways allow Wamsley to face the world.
Art has been a way I came back to myself and came back into my body, absolutely.
Have you reached a place where you can say, I'm happy?
Yeah.
Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Abel Rangel, The Signal, Halifax.
The ongoing pandemic presents a challenge for animal shelters. The Dartmouth SPCA is struggling without their trusted volunteers and a significant drop in donations. Gabrielle Brunette reports.
The SPCA had to close its doors to the public for the first 6 weeks of the pandemic.
Yes, Monty. You want everyone to pet you.
COVID pushed pause on everything: volunteers, fundraisers, and adoptions. Taylor Hustis started off as a volunteer. Now she works with the Nova Scotia SPCA.
We didn't have any fundraisers or anything, and animals were staying longer, so it was basically like our resources and everything was totally stretched, and so we had to do more with even less.
Hustis is in charge of raising awareness and funds for homeless pets. The nonprofit organization does not receive any government funding, and no fundraisers essentially means no donations.
We kind of had to turn virtual, so we kind of had to put on our thinking caps and creativity and see how we can still reach people, because at the end of the day, people still loved and cared about animals. We just needed to make sure that we were reaching them and that they knew that they could still support us just virtually instead of actually coming here to the shelter.
Foster families play a very important role for the SPCA, especially this past year. They free up space at the shelter and help socialize the animals. The only problem? Some people don't want to give the animals back.
A lot of the foster homes actually, after the 6 weeks, they had fallen head over heels in love. So we call that a foster fail situation. It's not really a failure because they found their family, which is awesome. But we always joke that it's a foster fail just because it's meant to be a temporary situation.
Unfortunately, the dogs could not be filmed. They are new to the shelter and nervous of strangers.
Very, very hopeful for, I guess, what this new normal will bring. Hopefully we'll be able to be out in the community a bit more, and maybe we'll be able to actually have people coming in and socializing with the cats and walking the dogs. If they're having a bad day or anything, there's nothing better than coming in and like cuddling cats.
The SPCA will try to open its doors to volunteers in the coming months. Gabrielle Brunette, The Signal, Halifax.
The world of dating can be messy at the best of times, let alone during the global pandemic. Drew McConnell reports that some people seek out professional help when looking for love.
Hello everyone, Geneva here from JE Matchmaking.
This is Geneva Dickey. She's a professional matchmaker and dating coach. She operates her own business called JE Matchmaking here in Halifax.
And so after about a year of speed dating, or doing speed dating events, I would notice that a lot of, there was lots of matches, but the people that were leaving were not compatible at all.
Enter the Book of Love. It's not just a catchy song from the 50s. Dickey built a database with more than 600 singles profiles. It's what's made her a full-blown matchmaker.
On Valentine's Day 2018, I started the matchmaking. And that started with one binder that was the Book of Love. And it was people filling out sheets of paper in the Book of Love of their profile. They added one picture, and then I would matchmake from that.
Since then, she's quit her day job after becoming a full-time dating coach, and she now works out of her office all day long.
Right after the first lockdown, after COVID, I started coaching. And the coaching is when it made this business more sustainable. And then it's just been growing ever since then.
In fact, Dickey spends upwards of 12 hours a day in her office, planning events, talking to clients, creating compatible couples. But she says most of her time is devoted to learning.
I'm listening to other dating coaches and matchmakers and the systems that they do. I am, investing in courses. I am reading every single dating psychology. Actually, most of it is psychology. I'm reading every psychology book out there.
And in the last few months, several of her matches have gotten engaged.
Because what I created is a really unique system outside of the existing matchmaking industry. And so what I want to do is I want to package that into a system and franchise it. So the expansion is less so having employees and more so creating other business owners.
I'm sorry, your request was girlfriend level.
Dickey continues to spread the love in the HRM. Drew McConnell, The Signal, Halifax.
Many restaurants are struggling after a year and a half of lockdowns. As the pandemic drags on, some local places to eat and grab a drink shut down.
But as Aaron Murphy reports, one Halifax restaurant owner isn't giving up.
Le Bistro by Liz is a French bistro in downtown Halifax. Owner Liz Ingram Chambers worked at the original Le Bistro in the 90s.
I always wanted to have my own restaurant, and I wanted to take over the original Le Bistro back in 1999 when they sold it, but a larger group bought it. And they changed so much that it wasn't my beloved bistro, so I left after a year.
But she returned and created her own piece of heaven, one that the COVID-19 pandemic put in jeopardy.
It definitely got to the point was, wow, I don't know if I can keep doing this. If they keep closing us down, how do I keep the mental stress down? How do I take care of my staff? The more I think about all the drama and all the things that we went through and to keep the place open, it's really, it was hard. It was a struggle.
The multiple COVID lockdowns tested Chambers, but giving up wasn't an option.
I couldn't let it go. There's no way. I know a number of people who sold their restaurants. I had somebody come in and wanted to buy my restaurant from Montreal, and I was like, no, I'm not ready yet. It's been a hard couple of years.
Even with restrictions still in place, Chambers is just happy to be there.
As long as our doors are open, and we can have a certain amount of normalcy and my staff are okay, that's really all that matters.
To Chambers, Le Bistro is more than a business.
You feed the soul and you take care of the person. We have a lot of customers from the hospital and stuff who are going through hard times, and it's all about taking care of people.
She calls it her happy place where she is giving back to others.
People should be kind to each other. All the time. Smile at somebody walking across the street. Tell somebody they look great. Right? It's pretty easy to turn around and be nice rather than cranky.
This coming December, Le Bistro by Liz is celebrating their 10th year open. Aaron Murphy, The Signal, Halifax.
That's our show. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Litvak.
And I'm Avery Stewart. For more news stories, follow the Signal Halifax on YouTube and Twitter.
Or go to signalhfx.ca.